We've been taught that strength means carrying everything, that resilience means enduring friction without breaking. But true power isn't found in constant resistance. At Black Mental Health Matters, we are redefining the narrative. There is immense strength in softness. There is courage in choosing to heal, in setting down the heavy lifting, and in claiming your peace as a non-negotiable right. We are building the infrastructure for impact. A collective space where the diaspora can find tools, community, and the unshakable permission to slow down, process, and thrive. Your healing is not a luxury, it is the foundation. Join the movement. Let's build a softer, stronger tomorrow together.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. I am your host today, Trinity Thompson. A little bit about me. Since the last time that you've seen me, it's been over a year now. I have graduated with my master's degree, so I am a licensed master of social work. Thank you, everybody, for clapping. And I primarily serve a lifespan population. I work with anybody from young kids to older adults. I work with a substance use population. I work with mental health. I work with everybody. And I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful to be back here after a short break. And I'm going to keep it brief. I'm going to turn it over and introduce my guest for today. Our topic is Black Maternal Mental Health Week. And we are going to be talking about a host of topics, not a host of topics, a host of things as it pertains to Black maternal mental health and breaking generational trauma. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to first introduce Jessica Fisher Golden. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. So, as you said, I'm Jessica Fisher Golden. I am the founder of a private online community for new and aspiring mamas called Mama Matters, where we try to make this mamahood journey just a little bit easier. And we do that through education, we do that through nutrition, and most importantly, focusing on mental health awareness.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. Why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Rachel Johnson. I go by Rachel J. I'm the founder of Half Hood, Half Holistic and a doula myself. Our goal is to create culturally relevant and accessible mental health services for Black communities. I'm excited and honored to be in this space today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And next will be Dr. Amira Clemens.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Amira Clemens. I'm actually a nurse with a PhD. I am a Philadelphia native. Been a nurse for 22 years. I don't even know where to start with my introductions, but I am the CEO and founder of the Cultural Institute of Health and Education, where I provide entry-level healthcare skills to the underprivileged and underserved in Philadelphia. I'm also a professor of nursing and a research scientist, and my research focus is the mental health and homelessness of youth aging out of foster care. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. And next, I'm going to introduce Bernadeth Betchi. Did I say that right?
Bernadeth. It's Bernadeth Betchi. Yes. Hi. Hi. Greetings, everybody. My name is Bernadeth Betchi. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm an artist. And I am also a decolonial and intersectional scholar. My research focuses on postpartum depression and anxiety disorders in the global north. I focus in the area I live in currently, which is Ottawa, and I am building the bridge between academia and what's happening on the ground in terms of helping mothers and families ultimately navigating postpartum depression and having the conversations and how to bring culturally sensitive and more health equity community care back into maybe not back, but bring it to the healthcare system, and where when practitioners come with cases where they have clients that are from African descent, the diaspora, and probably have some intergenerational or some sort of cultural practices that are different and respond better to them in the way they're being, talked to, and or the recommendations in terms of navigating their depression. So, and I'm a human rights activist also, but ultimately I believe that my mission on this side of the veil is, um, to go back to community care in all aspect of life. I truly believe it's Lord, or your Lord, that said that we don't heal in isolation. And I truly believe that if we continue being isolated, and if we continue at the rate that we're continuing right now, and how we're living, which is very much in silos, very much individualistic, very much, to each their own, we're going to get sicker and sicker, because we're missing. Everyone used to have a role in the village. Now one person needs to have all of the roles, and it's absolutely impossible. So it's a pleasure for me to be here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. And next we have Faisa Ali. I hope I didn't butcher that.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Faisa Ali, and I am a doula, a mother, a human rights activist. I've been working in the maternal and child health field for about 15 years. I'm the founder of NUMA, which is a women's health advisory group, and then also Peapod Studio, which is the first maternal and reproductive health marketing agency. And I'm also the podcast host of Mom Over Matter. So Bernadette, two things that I resonated with. I'm from, or I was born in Ottawa, so I lovely to see another Canadian. And then I also the reason why I even started that podcast was because of the fact that I felt isolated. And my mother's journey, where she came to, even as a refugee, and came to the United States without much help, she still found community, and it did help her in terms of raising. But for me, that wasn't the case. When I although I had all of the maternal health knowledge, I'm a doula, that did not save me from the depths of isolation, of postpartum depression and anxiety. So definitely excited about this topic, and so honored to be on a panel with you lovely ladies.
Thank you so much, Faisa. Okay, perfect. And then last but not least, we have Bernadette. We have another Bernadette on our show today. Bernadette, why don't you introduce yourself? Bernadette, I don't want to butcher your last name either. I'm sorry, Nigea? I think you're muted. I think you might still be muted. Okay. We will give Bernadette a little bit of time to rejoin. But until she joins, I think we can go ahead and just get straight into our topic for the day, which again is Black maternal mental health. And I think it's just a really important topic, as Black women, as we kind of face the next chapter in our lives of like bringing in new life and things like that. It's very important that we check in with ourselves, that we are in tune with our emotions and the way that we're feeling, and we are catering to ourselves during this very special time, because it can be a challenge at the same time. It's a blessing, but it can also be a challenge. And my first question that I want to present to you ladies is, When we say honoring our stories, what does that actually look like in practice for Black mothers versus just talking about trauma?
I
I can.
can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I can start. So I honoring our stories to me means that when we hear stories from Black women, especially after, before and after they have children, to listen to them and gather information to support them in their journey into motherhood, because it's not as easy as a growing belly and then a cute baby after. There's a lot of hormonal disruptions that can cause, that leads to the postpartum mental health issues. So I feel like it has to do with, listening to and gathering the stories and putting those stories out there so people don't feel like they're suffering in silence, and that there's other people out there that's going through the same thing. Because I suffered with postpartum depression, and I was in healthcare before my last child, where I suffered postpartum depression. And I honestly didn't think that depression was real until I had postpartum depression. And during that time, I felt so isolated. And just learning that it's something that's common, and finding people who went through it to, be able to learn from their stories and learn how they coped and learned how they got through it. I feel like that's important for us to gather that information and put it out here, much like what you're doing with this podcast. Like, put it out there so people can learn from what other people went through.
Thank you for that. Rachel, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, what I wanted to offer specifically around what it looks like to honor our stories is actually kind of highlighting. We talk about this a little bit before the call began. In uh, I'm the co-founder, in addition to two other women, Dr. Seward and Dr. Cochran Albright, in upstate, this Black Maternal Health Summit, which is not unique idea, right? Coming together to learn about Black maternal health, but the way that we push it together, we use and ground like storytelling as the core aspect of healing in this summit. So when people come, there's not subject matter experts at the top of the room telling you about what a PMAT is or what anxiety is or how you should breastfeed. It is women themselves centering their stories. And so what we do is we work with them. We do workshops with them, moving up to the story. This is the first time women have even shared their story in this space. We come together, everybody sits in a circle. I don't care if you're a doctor, I don't care if you're a mama, I don't care if you have all these fancy letters after your name. Like, everyone is a witness to stories or a participant in the story. That's it, right? There's no experts in this space, right? And one of the reasons why that's such a pivotal model in how we uh get to education, we get to healing, we get to connection, is because there's nothing more human than listening to people's stories, right? And the totality of the story. We call this, the name of this is Justice and Joy, which an honorable nod to the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, whose theme this year was Justice and Joy. And the concept of that is that we want to tell the full story. For so long, we've only been telling one piece of Black maternal health, and that is that moms and babies are dying. And that is a truth and a very stark reality. And there's also a lot of resilience and community and joy and connection in the Black maternal health journey. And those things should be lifted up just as equally as the pain and the trauma. And so we think that storytelling is healing because it helps to transform something like shame and guilt and isolation into something like shared humanity. It becomes this connection point for other people to see themselves in someone's story. And when you see yourselves in someone else's story, you're more likely to mobilize through that. You're more likely to connect with them. You're more likely to move through healing. Sometimes the most healing thing somebody can hear is another Black mama saying, "Me too, girl. Me too." Right. And so that's the only thing I wanted to offer into the space. Thank you for that.
I would love to add to what has been beautifully said in a powerful manner. So, as I said, I'm Bernadette, and I come from, my mother's name is Marie-Jeanne Jana Bengono. Her mother's name is Esther Ayenga. I'm the mother of Zainab Ayenga. So that's my story too. And my mother has had a history, like she's had 5 children. And then her mother has had 6 children. And then I also mother now, right? 3 children. So when I came confronting or experienced postpartum depression, it opened a portal for me and my mother to have a conversation and how she experienced all of her birth, right? And also it opened that portal for her to tell me, I actually also did experience postpartum, but I never saw my mother in that light because it wasn't shared before. And then she maybe never had the opportunity to speak to her mother about how she experienced all of her birth and how she experienced postpartum. But that intergenerational story, those connection, and then me and my mother having the opportunity to show motherhood to my daughter or to my sons is also very powerful. So I very much resonate with what's been said in like the power in stories, but the power also in where do I come from, what has happened to the women before me, and then what will happen to the women after me, and am I vulnerable enough and to show, a side of motherhood maybe that my mother never knew how to show, just to show maybe another reality, which would make it even more human, right? Because until I experienced postpartum depression, which just a bit like you, Dr. Clemens, I was just like, I thought depression would discriminate because, of the personality that I had. Never thought it would even come close to my house, right? And so it is important to know these stories, to open portals, to be able for all of us to share. Yeah, this is how I've experienced motherhood, and maybe from the outside, it looks like this, but actually inside of me, this is the experience that I've had, and I've come. I've really to me it's great source of knowing the women before me, naming them, the women after me, naming them, and giving us the blessing to be able to heal what's never been spoken about, and now continue with more wisdom in understanding that it can happen, and how can we be there for the next generations and the people around us, in the way they will mother, either through birthing or through mothering the kids village.
I just wanted to add in there, I am not a mother yet. I hope to be one day, but I think that it's really important that we do have the conversation around like parenthood, and as far as like our expectations and how we deal with like our traumas and the things like that. As as generations go by, I think that what you said, Bernadette, as far as like depression doesn't discriminate, I think that was a really key point, just as far as, thinking that we have the personality to combat some of these things when, like, just like you said, it doesn't discriminate. And we are very susceptible to go through things. And I think that it's important that we have open and honest conversations about what we go through, especially as Black women, given the fact that we face so many systemic barriers. We face a lot of discrimination just in healthcare. I think it might be affecting somebody, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Black mothers have the highest mortality rate when giving birth. And thank you, Dr. Clemens, for confirming. But I think that, like I said at the beginning, it can be a very beautiful time in our lives, but it can also be very traumatic. And like, how do we build support systems around us? How, and it's true what they say, that it takes a village to raise a child. So what does it look like to implement different support systems in our lives? What kind of coping skills do we use to combat things like depression and PMADs? PMADs meaning perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. So what are we putting in place to make sure that we are taking care of us and that we are pouring into our own cups? Did anybody else have anything else to add before we move on to the next question?
The only
Oh,
thing I wanted to
mhm.
add, I don't want to, is what I love about this discussion in particular is that we're talking about Black maternal mental health across different regions and cultures, which is an extremely like important contextual piece to the rest of this discussion, right? And so what the power of something like storytelling when my sis is in Kenya is very different than the power of storytelling or what that looks like. And it's also the thing that connects us. And so that's the only thing that I wanted to lift up because Trinity, when you talk about what um, the stark reality statistics around birthing, that's going to look different regionally, right? And the factors that influence those statistics may or may not look different. So that's the only other contextual or grounding pieces that I wanted to pull out because this discussion, I've been on a lot of panels in different parts, even different parts of the United States are going to have different pieces that impact health, maternal health, and in Black communities in particular. So I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to highlight that contextually this is going to look different.
No, I absolutely agree, and I think that that's something that we can all agree on is that within the Black culture there are many different subcultures, and it depends on where we come from. That definitely adds context to our stories. So thank you for bringing that up, Rachel. For our next question, Black women experience higher rates, just like I said, of maternal mortality and often report feeling unheard in healthcare settings. How can those experiences affect a mother's mental health during pregnancy and after birth?
Can I,
So, go
okay.
ahead.
No,
Go
nope,
ahead.
because I started the last one. I'll let you go first.
No, you're good. I'm glad that you made that because so there's this concept in public health called weathering, and it's basically the idea that chronic stress of racism actually ages the body, like it wears down your system over time. So a lot of times, a Black mom walks into her pregnancy already tired, already stressed out, already carrying the load that has nothing to do with her baby, her pregnancy, like her excitement for it. She's just already overcome by stress of hearing all of the statistics and then just the stress alone of being a Black woman and navigating this a system that was built against you. So at once you stack like getting dismissed at appointments, the money, stress that comes with it, the pressure to be that strong Black woman who never cracks, who never breaks, who never needs anything from anyone. Now you have a nervous system that has been running on high for years, and that is not sustainable. And that's where, I mean, that in my opinion, the anxiety and depression really grow and really stem from. So I'd love to hear also, like from mental health specialists, like how does that actually affect does it make it increase your mental your chances of postpartum depression and anxiety, literally just being stressed, because I've seen it, so would love to hear that. And the fact that it's not that Black women are fragile, it's that they're just carrying more with less help. So, and then we're also told to smile through it, like nothing's happening to us, right? So postpartum depression is there. It's just her response to the load is where really she needs help, right? So yeah, just wanted to add my thoughts around it. It's really like to also educate you on weathering, like that this is something that, or the audience on weathering, and we are already carrying the stress from everyday life, and then bringing on pregnancy, I think it just double like folds, like makes it even harder.
Thank you for that, Faisa. I think you brought up really good points. And it's just as far as like, the things that we go through mentally when we are embracing like this new chapter. Does anybody have like any perspective to offer to Faisa?
I just, I'm sorry, Dr. Clemens, go ahead and then I'll go after you. It's okay.
Thank you. I was gonna There was a couple things I was going to add, but because she was asking about the stress, because a lot of people think stress is mental, but it's actually physiological. There's a physiological damage that occurs over time when a person is under stress. And when I used to teach at Drexel, one of the first semesters we taught about stress, not just because of learning about patients, but learning about, teaching the students themselves that stress actually kills you. Like it
Yeah.
causes so much disruption in your body when you're constantly under stress. And again, stress isn't just like something that happens here, it happens on a physiological, like with cortisol being released, imbalanced hormones, dysregulated blood pressure, things like that. So over time, like the body deteriorates from stress. And the other thing that I wanted to add to the question is that with Black women in general, even outside of maternal health, like when we are coming to healthcare professionals with complaints and concerns, we're a lot of times dismissed as, we're over dramatic, we're seeking something that we're not, we're maybe seeking drugs or seeking, and so many people, and we still do every day, especially if they're the younger generation. Oh, you're young, it's okay. This is probably just, something you need to get some rest, you need to lose some weight. But we're not heard. And the issue with that is the more we're not listened to and the more we're unheard, the less we talk about what's going on, the less we seek answers. And then that becomes a increased mortality, and not only us, but then when this child is born, we're still feeling like we're the complaining mother, or we're just over dramatic. So we stop asking questions, we stop seeking answers. So that I believe increases the mortality of the mother and the child. And I've had friends who were in healthcare who, there was one nurse that she was having trouble breathing, and it was the end of her last trimester, and her nurse practitioner, I believe, was said, "Oh, it's a normal part of pregnancy." She told a friend, I don't think this is right. She told her to go to the ER right now. I'll meet you. And they did an emergency C-section, and they realized she had like dilated cardiomyopathy and that she would have been dead by the time the nurse practitioner told her to seek help that Monday. It was a Friday. She said, just come back Monday. She would have been dead by Monday because her heart was so dilated that she could no longer sustain the pregnancy. And the thing about it is, like, she was seeking help. She went to where she should go. She went to the right people, and they just told her, "Oh, it's nothing." She told a friend who's also a woman's health nurse practitioner, and if it wasn't for her telling her friend, she wouldn't be here to tell her story. So I feel like I feel like that's what happens when we're being told we're being too dramatic, nothing is wrong, it's all in your head. We stop seeking answers, and then that's when there's an increase in morbidity and mortality.
Absolutely, Dr. Clemens, absolutely. And the piece I wanted to add to this question is the following. We cannot speak about postpartum depression, but depression in general, and we cannot find solutions um, if we don't speak on social determinant of health in general. Okay. So if you are poor, if you cannot feed, you don't have a job, you can't feed yourself, you're not able to, you don't know how you're going to put food on your table for your children. If you, so food scarcity, poverty, all of these things contribute to the stress that we're speaking on. So um people, I'll say, reducing postpartum to, or not even reducing, but only speaking about postpartum or depression or stress in like this very like this alone standalone symptom, or we're missing so much of what has created what's the environment for that person, so that they're experiencing these things. So knowing their story, knowing their particular history, understanding that even though you and I are all Black women and we have some similarities in our stories, we also have walked a different path in this world, right? Intergenerational trauma, racism, oof, okay? So all of these things need to be discussed as we're discussing postpartum depression, which postpartum depression might be one case, but maybe you were already depressed to start with, overstressed, and then it kind of all trickles down. So and I'm sure in our stories, and for those of us maybe that come from academia but also are mixing holistic to it, which brings opens up the conversation even more. uh I know that I was in my mama's womb while she's experiencing so much stress. So guess what? I came out, and then there's some feelings and things I'm like, I'm not sure why I'm feeling this way, but we now understand that there's things that I inherited just by living in her body while she was experiencing, all of the stress that she was experiencing, right? And then there's things that I gave to my children, because there's life happens, things happen, they come out, and then their bodies are already wired a certain way, right? And you don't understand why and all of that, but then by going back and having the conversations, and hey, your environment will, there's legacy that an environment will give you, then you understand better where you need to focus on. And then that depression or postpartum depression or anxiety are just ways to show you, to indicate that, okay, your body has had enough, but we have to talk about this in a very in a holistic way, a fulsome way. There's so many things that will impact that. So we want to combat mental health. We need to also combat poverty. Need to make sure everybody has something to eat. Need to make sure that everybody has a job so they can pay their bills. We need to make sure that all of these things, they only also need to be tackled.
Bernadette, what one thing that you said that really resonated with me is your generational trauma and how it is that was one thing that I was thinking about as well with this topic, is that the stress of our ancestors are still in our body, which is absolutely what one of the things that I know, for example, is that I was born I was in being a first generation American. People in my country think that I'm the lucky one, the one that got out, because my people are from Somalia and it's a war-torn country. My mom went through the most unspeakable acts of war that could happen. And one thing that I know, being born in the West, is that anytime that there is a firework, anytime that there's some sort of big loud sound, I completely shut down. It's not oh, what is that? And it's I can see that it's fireworks, but on the inside, I'm stressed out and my body is telling me leave. This is not a safe place for you. And I never understood my irrational fear for that until I started to learn about how stress is absorbed in utero, which is, so when you think about abuse, when you think about systemic abuse, when you think about all of that, that is something that we really need to cut. And that generational curse, or that generational passing of strife and trials and all of that, that needs to be cut from now, which is huge. So I love that we are talking about this. We are investing in it. We are highlighting it, because this is something that we really can be the pioneers of change for the rest of our generations.
I was just gonna add something really quick to that, because speaking of that, because it is encoded in our DNA that the trauma of our ancestors is definitely, there's research now that supports it. And ever since I was really young, I literally can't wear anything on my neck that's like touching my neck, I get physically ill. If there's something like a turtleneck will, like just looking at a turtleneck will send me. I can't wear anything on my neck, so I'm not gonna talk about
isn't that amazing? I think that's just so like fascinating to that is a thing, and it's sometimes you don't know why until you really start to research.
Yeah, and I'm glad I know now. But when I was younger, I thought I was just odd that I can't wear anything too tight around my neck because I got physically ill.
And I think that's the powerful piece, right? Y'all are talking about like, we know through genetics, what this looks like from a DNA level, what it looks like intergenerationally. But what's really key, and I appreciate the call out by Bernadette, is that if we don't understand the system, then we tell people, or people say they're crazy, or there's something wrong with them, or they walk through this in isolation. So this is what's really key. And from a clinical standpoint, you will start to then pathologize this person, right? And so you will say this person has depression and anxiety, and that is just, they need to figure out better coping skills. That's only one piece of the discussion. So what happens sometimes as providers is we are perpetuating or replicating this concept of like, this is a you issue, this is a siloed issue, this is an isolated issue, right? And so when we don't understand the system, when we don't understand contextually how this impacts people, we will say, here's this thing, here's this very siloed, oh, that's just your experience, you're not strong enough, right? You don't have enough community support. All of the things that we know that are protective factors, right? Having coping skills, having community. But this is much bigger. This is a much bigger issue, right? And so when we don't have that context, then people are walking around the world saying, is there something wrong with me? Right? What's wrong with me that I can't birth my babies in this way? What is wrong with me that I'm so anxious and I'm afraid throughout my pregnancy? What's wrong with me that I can't get along with my partner through this? Like, what's wrong with me, right? It becomes the internal narrative. That's that shame, that's that guilt. And oftentimes, if we don't break that silence and say, hey, whoa, what I like to offer is that yes, people are anxious and depression is real, and what really is hypervigilance in a system that has historically created fear for people of color, for Black mamas, right? This is hypervigilance. The fact that I have to look over my shoulder is not a symptom of me, it's a symptom of the system. It's the fact that y'all have harmed me. It is the fact that over time y'all have broken and abused my body. This is not, I didn't just wake up one day afraid to give birth. I didn't wake up one day super anxious about whether or not my baby will be okay. Parenting a Black child in any part of the world is a big, big task. And not because there's anything wrong with you as a mother or you wrong with you in your community, but because of the system that has made this an unsafe or fear-based practice, right? And so I think sometimes it's like this oscillating between naming the system but not naming it too big that it feels like you can't do anything about it where you're powerless, but naming it contextually to be able to say like it makes sense that you're a little hyper vigilant, right? I had a doula client one time ask me, first time we got on a call, am I gonna die? That was the first question. I'm like, oh, congratulations. Let's talk about your birth plan. Her first question was, am I going to die? That's not normal. That is not a normal response to a birth, like being with child. That's not a normal response, right? That is a symptom. That's a response to a system that has historically and continues to make Black women feel unsafe. I think that's important. Like that is like, because if we don't name that, we will internalize it. And when we internalize it, that just is going to perpetuate, right? It's just going to add some shame and some guilt and isolation to what is already existing. And that is not a great breeding ground for mental health, right?
I just appreciate everybody's perspectives on the question so far. I think that everybody's making really great points. Bernadette, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce you as a public health and trauma specialist. So if you wanted to maybe offer your perspective and or just introduce yourself really quick and maybe offer like your 2 cents, if you had anything. Oh, we're not able to hear you, Bernadette. We can come back to you if that's okay. So you guys had already kind of like jumped the gun and touched on my next question about racial discrimination, chronic stress, and healthcare disparities that we often face as Black women, not even in the realm of like just giving birth, but just in general. And I think that that was a really important point to touch on, is that we do, and Rachel, you use the word hypervigilance, which I think perfectly describes what we go through within different healthcare systems. And we touched on that. So I do want to move ahead to the next question because we have about 20 or so minutes left. What is one healing practice, clinical, cultural, or spiritual, that you wish Black mothers knew was more available to them? I know we have some doulas in here, people that work very closely with mothers. What kind of services do you wish that more Black women knew about and were able to take better advantage of?
I want to jump in and I want to say something as simple as 4 letters: REST, rest. It is extremely important to rest, especially after you give birth. I know it was said earlier how a lot of times we are stigmatized as being strong, or we have to be perceived as strong, and we have to do all the things, and we shouldn't ask for help. And that's not helpful for you. That's not helpful for your new family. It's not helpful at all for us as a whole. So as simple as it sounds, getting some rest. I won't put the word I want to say in front of that. As simple as that, as well as getting to bond and know your baby. Because I think oftentimes what happens, as I said earlier, when you take on this, okay, I got to do all the things, I got to make sure that I'm staying hydrated, that I'm eating the right things, that I'm, whatever other things that you have going on in your life, and you're focusing on those things, you're not connecting with that baby. You're not getting to know the personality of your new one. You don't have this is new to you, just like it's new to this little one. You've had them inside of you, or maybe 2 if you're having twins. But now that they're here, there's sleep patterns. There's certain things that you need to connect with, and you can only do that if you're spending time and resting with this child. Do that. They're gonna take a lot of rest for a reason, and you should as well. You went through this marathon of an event, however many hours it took for you, and you have to heal, not only physically, emotionally, but mentally as well.
Yes, 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 yes. To add to what Jessica said, so I was born in Cameroon, and that's the motherland for me. And I arrived here in Canada. I was a baby. I was 3. But if you ask me, I left the country, but then the country never left me. The cultural, my parents tried, their best to, through the way they lived and some of the attachment to the country, they passed on some cultural practices. But I'm going to say something. And that's a conversation I had with my mom is, she told me once, you actually birthed like my mother and less like me. And what I want to say with that is, there's something called instinct, right? When I came with child the first time, there are things that came kind of emerged in me. I did not understand, but I was like, nope, this is how I want to birth. I want to be at home. I want to have a midwife. I want to do this and I want to do that. And then I started looking at alternative and what is orgasmic birth and what is this and what is that. And my mom birthed in the hospital, and I'm nothing negative about this, but that's how she wanted to birth. She breastfed and also gave the formula. I was like, he is going to stay on here until forever, and then we'll try our best. And I breastfed my first until he was 5, because my body was telling me this is how you want to do this. So our instinct, which often will confront how the system wants us to mother, because we need to go back to work, because capitalism, because the whole thing about rest, they're telling you to rest, but everything around you will push you not to rest because there's no system in which you can actually say, yes, 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 I just had my child. Allow me. Those 40 days or whatnot in cultures where they say the mom cannot even lift a finger, right? In the West, is so difficult to mimic because everything else, even your peers will tell you, what do you mean you're like staying in your bed and not doing anything? I've had the blessing of having my mom for every single of my birth, and my sister and my sisters and my family, my close village. But my mom would come and stay with me. All you need to do is to rest. I'm going to take care of everything else. And that was the best gift. People would ask me like, or tell me, or comments like, no, I really just want to be alone. And I'm like, what do you mean you want to be alone? If you're alone, then you'll have to compensate and make the meals and do everything else. Me, all I had to do was to wake up, feed my baby, make sure someone was mothering me, right? And yes, please, mother me, take care of me. And then when you're gone, I can better take care of mine. But I needed someone to take care of me. So feeding me, making sure I'm hydrated, coming through my roller coasters of emotions. Whew, the crying, the happy, the everything. The pain when uterus is coming back, right? The nights you feel alone, everybody's asleep, and then you're awake and you're worried about if your kid is breathing, and you keep going closer because you're trying to listen to if they're breathing or not, right? There's ceremonies that we do with the woman's body in my culture where you get in hot water and you have someone massaging your body, like bringing back your body, in a way like heat, like trying to, because your body aches. And then also the all the sweat, like there's all these little things that I got to experience in the West in a way that we found, right? That was, we made it a little bit our own, but it's a continuity of what my ancestors did. And I felt it so much when I was doing it, right? And I'm hoping to pass some of it to my daughter and my sons, if they want to pass them to their partners. Blessing ways. There's ways that you can not just focus on the baby, which is a beautiful miracle, but also the person who just was, the portal to bring that baby earthside. So there's so many ways, but I'm telling you, I'm inviting you to listen to your instinct. This is what I want to do. I want to co-sleep. The baby's going to sleep with me in my bed. Well, we're going to do this in a safe way. Okay, but this is what I want to do. No, in their room. If that's your thing, sure. But me, I want my baby close because that anxiety of separation was too much. So I want to bring that baby close. And so, but instincts often go against systems. So I want to say be strong in pushing and, but just make sure that if that voice is very loud inside of you, and this is something you really want to do, and that's really the way you want to mother, or you want some people to mother you, say it out loud, name it, and find your people that can actually hold that space for you.
Bernadette, that is exactly what I experienced that I had. That is amazing because my mom, the same way, came for 40 days. So we have something called Afartambah, which is the 40 days. It's in our culture. 40 days after you give birth, the community, most of your sisters, your aunts, completely take care of you. Like you don't lift a finger. All you need to do is breastfeed that child. Somebody bathes you, so my mom did that for me, and it was revolutionary for me. So it just goes to show you it's a great example of something that we can learn from our ancestors and the global South, where I feel like here in the Western world, we kind of like think of what our ancestors did as this is not innovative, or this is not, modern medicine. It has nothing. No, it has something tied to it because it's something that we've been doing for thousands of years, literally for the last 50, 100 years. We completely, as we industrialized, completely took that away from our practice, and we are dying because of it. Being in isolation is the word. I mean, this with social media, with all of our advancements, we have a loneliness epidemic. where people are just literally lonely. They feel like they don't go outside. Now remote jobs are available. So there isn't that, cohesiveness of community. And we really need that. An example that I give that I'm like, okay, this is something that is so like in our DNA, is that if a baby is born and isn't touched, that baby is no longer, right? That baby dies because it's literally needs that physical touch. Us as human beings, we are wired to have touch, to have physical closeness, to have the need to be poured into from our community. So, for us to, in our very most vulnerable time, for us to not have anyone by us, it's so detrimental. So I wish, and I think one of the like one of my biggest missions is to have that, bring that culture of that 40 days after birth into the US and see it. And one of the things that I also tell my clients and everybody that I work with is also be a villager. That 40 days of that happens only if you do that in yourself to somebody. Because one of the things that I found is when I gave birth, it was lonely because of my my friends, people around me thought I had it. She got it. She knows everything. No, I needed people at that point when I was alone, breastfeeding, didn't sleep for a week, like just stressed out about having a new baby and my life being completely changed. I needed people. So yes, you could be there for the wedding, the baby shower, all the things that are lovely. But in that postpartum period where you feel like this is just you and this baby, and what am I, like, you're just spiraling, you need people. So I also put a lot of emphasis on not only being like asking for a village, but be a villager as well. When you see somebody give birth, come to their house, be like, hey, here, even if you could give them Uber Eats, like do something in order to reach out and have a hand. But yes, I double click on community is really important.
I was just going to, oh my goodness, y'all are warming my hearts, because that's one of the things that I was going to say in response to the question. We're losing a sense of community, and that loss of community, because, we're rushing our children to get out and be, on their own and have your own, and we're becoming more disconnected, but the connectedness is what makes us human and keeps us alive. In the case of maternal health, we need people around us. And I remember, like, I was really young when I had my first child, and I lived alone, and I don't know how I got through it. And I'm the mentally strong person that I am, but like, that social isolation was horrible. And you're right, like, this social media and the way, you know, society is becoming more separated is terrible for us, especially us, Black women, because we need a sense of community. And I also like that, be a villager. I like that term. I'm gonna start using that one. You need to be a villager. Somebody's having a baby, you need to figure out how you can go over there and help that person, because it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference in life or death, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have just about 7 minutes left. So I want to take the opportunity to kind of close out, and I want to hear just a little bit from everybody with this last question. If a Black mother, which I know that there are Black mothers watching this, my mother is watching this right now. If a Black mother is listening today, what is one thing that she can do after this conversation that you feel like would kind of like inspire hope? So whether it's reaching out, setting a boundary, seeking therapy, what's one piece of advice that you would offer somebody that is in the process of becoming a mother for the first time, mother for the second, third, fourth, however many children they're in? What is one piece of advice that you would give to a Black mother that maybe you didn't have?
I'm gonna jump right in because listen, another simple one: seek a like-minded community. I didn't share a lot about my story, but I'll go very briefly. So when I became pregnant and had my first child, I decided I want to, much like you, Miss Betchy, I decided I want to do a home birth. Now, nobody in my sphere of influence, as I call it, nobody in my family that I knew at the time did that. So I went on this rabbit hole and I'm checking and I'm online looking up all of these facts. And it was very isolating because I'm learning things and I'm excited about it, but I don't have anybody to share it with. So eventually, when I started collecting all these resources and people and um, health professionals who guided me along that path of going through home birth the first time, I did it the second time. And then the questions started coming to me where I'm looked at as, well, she's been through this, so she knows. And I decided, we're gonna collect all this information and I'm going to make it available. And that's how that's how Mama Matters was started. So with that being said, I just put that information out there and a lot of people came to me. Well, I assume you know how to do this, which I don't know all the things, and I am very, very transparent in that, but I can bring people into our community that can teach us about these things. So I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think it's very important to find a community so that you can get the information that you may not be privy to. Go ahead and make sure that you make those connections and please ask for help. Please. We can't do this by ourselves and we're not built to do this alone. I'll stop there because I'll keep going.
I wanted to resonate with you, Jessica, and say find at least one person, because that can become exponential. Like find one person that will listen to you and talk to that person, pour into that person. It was that one person that saved me when I was going through my postpartum, because I was actually suicidal, and it was that one person that I felt like I could call, like, listen, I don't know what's going on. Something is wrong. I don't want to live anymore. And she was the one that called, the 911 to come get me where I was. Find one person that you can talk to that will listen to you, at least.
I will add to that and say, tell that one person the truth of how you're doing. So find a safe person. If you're a mom listening to this, find a safe person to talk to and tell them exactly how you're feeling. Not I'm fine, not I got this. Like, really tell them exactly what you're feeling, because the second you say it out loud, you stop carrying it by yourself. Like, you literally feel like a weight is off your shoulders. And that's usually when you can transcend into something new. So tell somebody, get that therapy, get, set that boundary if you can, get the help. You don't have to fix everything right now, but step by step, you'll get there.
Yeah, I think I would just echo a lot of what folks have already said about community care, but community being something that you have to build and sustain. It's not just a thing. And so, and that you can start building that community now.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, all with links on this call that but the key piece here is that like sometimes you first have to grieve what your community is in order to open up to what your community can be. And so there's this piece here that's always missing, I think, in this discussion about like getting help, seeking help. But it's like, what happens when the community the family that I have, the partner that I have does not show up in the way that I want to? I would offer beyond that is to create space for grief, right? Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
this work is grieving what I thought parenting would be, what I thought my pregnancy journey would be, what I
Mm-hmm.
thought
would be, what I thought how much my mother would be involved in this process, what I thought how much my partner was going to be involved. There's so much unnamed grief, and I feel like we only create space to grieve in maybe experiences of miscarriage or like a stillbirth, like those are tangible griefs, but there's this concept of ambiguous grief that is all up and through and embedded in maternal health. Maternal health even includes the inability to sustain a pregnancy, to get pregnant. Maternal health includes infertility. Maternal health includes postpartum. Maternal health is an entire journey. And there's a lot of grief that I feel like we just don't name. And oftentimes we're holding on to that stuff. We're grieving that we have to parent in this world, that we have to navigate these systems. All of these things are grief. And so I think I would just offer to mamas, like, create space to grieve, and name your anger and your rage as grief. Name your sadness as grief. Name your anxiety as grief. Like, this is a lot of this is grief, right? It's the fact that we feel like this is not fair. There's not a fairness in this, right? And so we should create space to grieve, and that space can open up space for something else or a new reality. And so, I just work with a lot of mamas that don't have the communities they wish they had, that did not have the labor or the pregnancy they wish they could have had, like all of these things. And that's a part of the story too. And I think we should create space for that.
Yes, I share to all of that. Absolutely. There's so many things that are, trying to get through, they're pushing each other in my brain. And as I'm being inspired by what you're saying, I'm trying to go one direction. I guess one thing is I'll use the term Faisa used earlier, be the villager you wish someone was for you. So offer the help that you wished you had received. Be observant. Observe your friends that are becoming mothers, or your friends that are speaking about motherhood, and not always to say something, but just to observe. And then when the time comes, or when the time is right, and they're asking for, your presence, your opinion, whatever, be that person. So remember also maybe things that you resonated with when you transition into motherhood. Or my sister will often say she doesn't have children of her own. She didn't birth any, but she's raising mine with me. And she often says, like, I'm learning so much, right? So even though you didn't birth, you're mothering someone else's child too. I truly believe in that. And one last thing is something that really healed me, or was very useful when I had my children and they were small, is people sometimes would message me at night, the dark hours. And I feel like night was the worst time for me. Often I was up, sleep deprived, anxiety to the roof. And when I received messages at night, it made me feel like I'm not alone. Someone else is thinking of me, feeling seen, feeling loved. And so that's something I continued with, some of my sisters, my sister-in-laws that had babies, and I would message them during the day, but at night, it was very intentional in doing it at night, because I find that often at night, that's when like some thoughts get into your head, and then you make sense of them, but they're not always beautiful thoughts, right? So be the person you wish you had in your corner. Be the person you had in your corner and you admired what they did to you. Continue that, because that's I think that's healing. It's very intentional in mothering the mother, right? And in that village. Thank you.
And if I were to also just offer my piece of advice, although I'm not a mother, I would highly encourage seeking therapy. Anybody that you feel comfortable with, a Black provider. I have a handful of clients that I see that are mothers that are struggling with postpartum depression or other PMADs that, you know, don't necessarily have a family. And I don't think that your support system necessarily has to be blood family. It could be anybody that you choose that is just there to support you during your darkest hour, literally at the middle of the night if you need somebody to call on. But also implementing a therapist somewhere in that realm as well, somebody that can offer the professional advice, somebody that you know is consistently checking in on you, whether that be on a weekly basis, bi-weekly, somebody that can accommodate like your schedule with the new baby, and the fact that Black maternal mental health doesn't just stop at, you know, when the baby turns 1 or 2 years old. It goes on for forever, because that title of being a mother lasts forever. You're going to be a mother for the rest of your life. So anytime that you need to check in with somebody about what it is that you're going through as a mother, please definitely check in with somebody. So with that being said, I want to thank every single woman that is on this panel. I want to thank every watcher, every viewer that has tuned in this morning, you know, wherever you might be and whatever time of day that it might be, morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week on another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. Everybody have a great day. Bye.